I was wrong. I was wrong to have hope. I was wrong to allow myself to have hope. And that's the bit I'm most embarrassed about as I look back. I was wrong to hope for better days at West Ham United. And as a result of feeling like that, it's changed my attitude towards the head coach of West Ham United. And I use it quite vague because at the minute it's Nuno, but it may remain like that beyond Nuno as well. But because of how I've been made to feel, which is that I was wrong, it's changed my attitude towards Nuno and what I'm wanting from Nuno going forward. It's going to change my attitude in regards to how I feel about Nuno going forward with what I expect or how I expect West Ham to be playing under him. Hopefully it makes sense. Could be a bit of a long video because we're going to have to go back to 2023. And yes, I know some of you are going to go, hang on a minute, Gio. We don't need to go back to then. We know how you felt. A lot of you do. But we've had a lot of new subscribers in the last 2.5 years as well. So they don't know. But it's important for context. It's because of that context that feeds into why I feel like I do now, which is I was wrong to have hope. And yes, I know already I'm going to see the comments, stop going on about David Moyes. I don't really go on about David Moyes. I very rarely mention him. But it's important. It's the context. So let's go back to early 2023. The World Cup had just finished. And during the World Cup, I was happy for change. Because I thought it gave us an opportunity. Not just West Ham, it gave every club an opportunity to change their manager and have a month of sort of almost like a pre-season due to the World Cup. And I thought that gives us a unique opportunity. Good time to change manager. And we didn't. Then I remember in January, February time, around then, I changed my mind. I thought, no, do you know what? Don't sack David Moyes. And there was 3 reasons for that. One of the reasons was I feel like we were playing slightly better. I thought there was a bit of an improvement post-World Cup with the performances we were seeing, the results that we were seeing. So I was okay. I thought, that's okay. We're starting to see an improvement. Number 2, and I'm going up in reasons here. So that was the weaker reason. Here's a slightly stronger reason. Number 2, the alternatives. The name linked was Rafa Benitez. And I was never, ever anyone but David Moyes. So when I seen us linked to Rafa Benitez, I thought, hell no, I'd rather stick with what we got, thank you very much. The alternatives that were being linked to the job were not good. And reason number 3, I thought the person that we bring in, likely to be on a short-term contract, there's going to be 2 things we want. 1, to stay up, and 2, to win the Conference League. And I was confident Moyes would deliver both of those things. Now I'm going to say it. I was right. He did. We stayed up comfortably. And we won the Conference League. So I feel like I was right to feel like that at that point. And after the Conference League, that's when I thought, right now we can change manager. Because the first 18 months, so prior to that season, I really enjoyed it. I thought we played some brilliant football under David Moyes. I thought the results were wonderful. The team was full of players and characters that I really liked. For now, the football that Lingard played, the partnership of Rice and Souček in midfield. That 18 months under David Moyes was some of the best football I've seen at West Ham. It was one of the best 18 months of supporting West Ham that I've had. Now, obviously, winning the final tops that, but the football that season was not great. I didn't enjoy it. But 18 months prior, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But that season, I was bored and I was fed up. I wasn't really enjoying the football. And that's why I was pro-change, pro-sacking Moyes, bringing in a new manager, because I thought it presented a really good opportunity. Albeit because of David Moyes, but I thought the club were in a brilliant position now, where we had Europa League football coming up. We had a bit of money to spend. Declan Rice was leaving, which wasn't good, but it would give the new person a lot of money to spend. And Tim Steidten was there as well. And this is part of where I was wrong, feeds into it. But I had hope. Very, very quickly, it was sort of unofficially announced that the board had decided to stick with David Moyes, that they thought about it, they'd had conversations, and they decided to stick with him. He only had a year left on his contract, they were just going to give him his year. And at that point, I sort of went, okay, fair enough. I would have made a change, but I get it. And it gives us a year to identify his replacement. It gives us an entire season to handpick the best person to replace David Moyes that would hopefully improve the football that we're seeing and bring similar results. Because this is what I will stress. I've never had an issue with the results David Moyes produced. And when I've said this before, there's always at least a handful of people that start pointing out individual games. Because I call it the big picture results. Let me just clarify exactly what I mean here. No, I don't like conceding 5 goals to Fulham at Craven Cottage, okay? But the overall results, 6th, 7th, 14th in a cup, 9th. And in between that, we had a quarter-final and a semi-final Europa League. Those results I was happy with. I'd never sat here and said, I think we should be getting Champions League football, because I've never believed it. I've never thought we were good enough. But I wanted to enjoy football more with similar results that Moyes was producing. That was my ideal. If we could be in the top half, competing for European football, and the football was just more enjoyable, like what we had in the first 18 months of Moyes, just a different style, that would have been my ideal, my perfection. So I was hoping that we'd use that season. Key word, hope, again. And this is where I feel a little bit embarrassed for allowing myself to think, the club will sort this, the club will get someone good in. And I think maybe my misplaced hope was partly laid at the door of Tim Steidten. Not necessarily because I thought Tim Steidten was going to go on and get the best manager in the world, and he didn't, but because I thought Steidten would have more influence than he did. And I don't necessarily want to have a conversation regarding Tim right now, because I think, was he the best director of football in the world? No, but I also think he was very one hand tied behind his back for the duration he was here. I think he was allowed to fight with David Moyes because of David Sullivan, and then when Moyes wasn't here, I think he was restricted by David Sullivan with what he could do. So did he perform at his peak? No. But do I think he was allowed to? Also no. But regardless, this is where my misplaced hope started. I thought, brilliant, we've got someone in a position that I like. The fact that he can oversee the replacement of Moyes, he can oversee player recruitment. Now we can have an identity going forward. And that was stupid of me. I feel a bit embarrassed that I had that hope. But I had it. Then we fast forward to the summer of 2024. And I was very disappointed with the appointment of Lopetegui. He's not someone I wanted at all. In fact, I was delighted when it looked like he was going to AC Milan. Obviously, their fans did a petition to prevent it, but when it looked like it was happening, I was happy. I thought, brilliant, it means we can't get him. And I was one of the ones that was happy with Ruben Amorim. And apologies, I'm glowing. The sun's decided to come through the curtain now. I'll put my hand up and said I would have liked Ruben Amorim. Was he in my top 5? No. But I would have been pleased with the appointment of... I got a bit excited with the appointment of Ruben Amorim. Why? Because I believed he was one of the best upcoming young managers / head coaches in European football. Those who watch European football were like, wow, this guy being incredible for West Ham. And as a result of that, I trusted their opinions and I got excited. Obviously, again, I feel a little bit silly about that, given how he's getting on at Man U. But I'm not going to pretend I didn't think things or feel things in this video. I'm being honest about it. But when Lopetegui came, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what you've come up with. You've had a year to plan for this. And you've come up with Lopetegui. And I was disappointed, very disappointed. The window came and went. The football under Lopetegui wasn't great. I was more anyone but Lopetegui than I was anyone but Moyes. And then I was somehow anyone but Potter more than I was anyone but Lopetegui. But Lopetegui, I didn't enjoy it. I thought we were going to get whooped every game that we played. And when we hired Potter, I thought, oh, boring but safe. He wasn't even good enough to be boring and safe. It was more boring than I thought it would be, and less safe. Anyway, he's gone now. Nuno's in. And this is a 9-minute build-up to get to the point as to why I've changed my mind. If Nuno was the man to replace Moyes, I wouldn't have been happy. I'd have said, no, thank you. I don't like his football. Don't want it. It's much and much of what we've just had. Arguably worse than Moyes, because at least Moyes, while I didn't enjoy the football, like I said, the big picture results were there. So if we kept Moyes, if he got a new deal and he had another year, I don't know, maybe my prediction, I don't know, the football would have remained a little bit stale and dire, but we might have finished 10th or something, right? I think it would have been fine results-wise, but the football just wouldn't have been enjoyable. Now, with Nuno coming in, like I said, summer 24, I wouldn't have wanted him. I wouldn't have. Even if he'd had the season he'd just had with Nottingham Forest prior to that, right? Because obviously that's part of the attraction to Nuno currently, how Nottingham Forest got on last season. That didn't exist in 2024. So let's just pretend it did. I still wouldn't have wanted him. I said, no, because, listen, good manager, decent results, but the football, the reason I want change is for more enjoyable football. He's not going to bring that. But today I'm pleased we've got Nuno because I've given up. I've given up wanting better football. I've given up wanting a brand of football I'll enjoy. And I know not everyone has, and people will still have hope. I don't have hope anymore. I feel embarrassed that I did have hope. Hope that they would have made the right appointments and we could have grown as a football club, improved as a football club. I look at Bournemouth and I think we could have had that. I do believe, and it's because of Moyes, that in 2023 or 2024, I think we would have had a chance of getting him. I always get muddled up when I say his name. Areola. I don't know, my brain doesn't like saying it. I normally just say Areola by mistake. Areola. He would have been my number one choice to replace Moyes at both of these points. And I think had we done, I think we'd be in a much better position today. I think the football would be more enjoyable. The results would be similar to what David Moyes delivered, I think. 9th, but better football. Outside chance of European football, but better football. And that's what I wanted. I've given up on that now. Because I don't think we're attractive anymore. I think we were attractive. And I know people point out, yeah, but the squad was slow and old. But post Moyes, we brought in talent up to 150 million, if we include Tadebo's loan with obligation in that window, about 150 million. And we brought in more players over the age of 30 in that window than we did in the entire time Moyes was here. We made the squad older while spending 150. And I strongly believe that when you took that squad that Moyes left, and if you spent the 150 million wisely, I think you could have easily have got rid of the issue of no pace in an old team. I think you could easily have got rid of it. You could have brought in much younger players, faster players. You could have changed. It's 150 million, right? If you can't alter the squad like that with 150 million, you're not going to be a very good director of football, and that's that, as far as I'm concerned. So I think we had real opportunity for change, to build, to improve. And we completely messed it up. And I just feel a bit embarrassed that I had that hope, that I allowed myself to have that hope. Because I've never trusted this board, so why did I allow myself to think they might be okay? And this is where the be careful what you wish for line is valid. Now, I have pushed back against it at times, but not always, because I think there is merit in those that said be careful what you wish for. Because when it's used and people say, I'm going to make it, no one wish for Lopetegui, and I make them right, okay? I make them right. No one did. So when someone said it to me, told you to be careful, I say, I was. I never wished for Lopetegui. So it's a sarcastic response. But for those that want to have an actual discussion rather than just dig you out and slag you off, but for those that actually want to have a debate and a discussion around the be careful what you wish for, I think there's merit in that phrase, because a lot, not all, some use it just as a stick to slag people off, but some meant it as a warning. And it's not, they weren't necessarily saying you can't do better than David Moyes, or West Ham fans used it. They weren't not necessarily saying we can't improve on David Moyes. What they were saying is we won't improve because of the board. And I think what they were trying to say is be careful what you wish for, because you know who's in charge. And I was guilty of ignoring that part. I was guilty of getting excited for better days, for having hope. And I think had I maybe just stopped and asked myself the big question, do you trust the board to get it right? My answer would have been no. So in hindsight, I look back now and think, well, bearing in mind you felt like that and you still do, why did you want change? Why did you allow yourself to have hope? And I think those that sometimes say be careful what you wish for don't necessarily mean it to slag you off. They're basically, I think those are the group of people, some of them, that didn't allow themselves to have hope, that predicted that the board would hire someone not competent like Lopetegui. And I think that's why when they say, well, I did warn you, I don't think they're necessarily saying you wanted Lopetegui. What I think they're saying is you probably shouldn't have allowed yourself to have that hope. You probably should have known this board would mess it up. And I think that's what there's meaning. Some, not all of them, but some of them, a lot of them. And I think there's merit in it. It's not a phrase I've ever used, and I'm still never going to use it, because I think it's sad to not have hope as a football fan. I always say this: if you start the season and you don't have hope or a dream, what's the point, right? If you start the season, you think, oh, we're going to get relegated and that's pretty tough, isn't it? Every season, and now this is a bit of hope I will never stop having. The start of every season, I allow myself, and I will do this, even with Nuno, I allow myself to believe we might win the FA Cup. Do I think we will? No. But it's my dream to see West Ham win the FA Cup. And I think if, before the eve of the new season, if I sat there and I didn't have that dream that West Ham would win the FA Cup this season, I think that's me done. I think that's when I need to just pack up and give up with football. Because I think that is the last thing that I've got to some extent. But the whole purpose of this video is to say that I was wrong. I've admitted that. But it's changed my attitude towards Nuno. I'm happy we've got Nuno now. Why? I've given up caring about the style of play. If Nuno can produce the results and the football's ugly, I'm going to be all right with that. Because I'm not going to allow myself to think, maybe we could make a change and the football would be better and the results would remain the same. Under this board, I'm not going to allow myself to have that hope anymore. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. And I'm not saying you shouldn't want better days at West Ham. You absolutely should. I want better days at West Ham. But I think there's a difference between wanting, hoping, expecting. And whilst I was perhaps never expecting it, I certainly allow myself to have hope. And I'm not doing that anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as Nuno can produce the results, I'm okay. And if at some point, and it's not to say that I won't comment on a game of football and say the football was boring today. I'm still going to call it as I see it. But what I'm not going to do again under the current board is say, I think we should change the manager. Why? I'd like to see better football. I'm not going to do that anymore. As long as the results are there, I'm going to put up with it. Because I was wrong to want hope, and I'm not allowing myself to do that again. I think I should have been careful what I wished for, actually. Anyway, bit of a depressing video, isn't it? Sorry about that. I guess you could look at it positively, which is that I'm happy with Nuno. I should just stress, I'm happy with Nuno, and I don't think we'll get relegated under Nuno. I think he will produce the results. I don't think the football will be great. I think it will be, hard to beat, hard to break down. We won't concede many goals, but I just don't think we're going to see free-flowing attacking football or anything like that. I think I'm still going to look over at Bournemouth and think, I wish we had a bit of that at West Ham. I don't think we're going to get it. I'm just hoping that he can produce what Moyes did in that 18 months, which is quick counter-attacking football, scoring goals, because that can be fun. That can be enjoyable. I'm hoping he can do that, and I can enjoy the football as well. My expectations aren't necessarily for that. I'm hoping, here's my hope, here's the hope I do have. I'm hoping that Nuno can make us organised, can make us hard to beat, and can produce the results that keeps us in this division. And you never know, he might produce enough results to get us European football next season, like he did at Wolves, like he did at Nottingham Forest. I think it's a big ask, but maybe I'll have hope of that. But in terms of hope of, change for a different style of football, not allowing myself to do it. Not again, because last summer I was wrong to have hope. I don't think I was wrong to desire change, but I was wrong to hope that the board would get it right. And I don't know why I allow myself to do that, because I don't trust them. I don't think they're good. Don't know. Bad decision on my part. Anyway, I'm off. Thank you very much for joining me. Please do drop a like on the video if you've made it to the end. Subscribe to Ham's Chat. I'll catch you tomorrow.